Great to have you with us on the Ed Show tonight. This chart right here, I showed it to you last night. We'll start it out again tonight. This is everything you need to know about America. And I challenge any state representative or any senator of any state legislative body across America to come here and stand on this platform with me. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pay your way to New York City. All you have to do is contact our producers and say that you want to be on the Ed Show and you want to explain to me in front of our audience tonight how this graph is good for America. Because, folks, this is all factual stuff right here. Tell me how the wage earner in America, which is the blue line, and the productivity of the American worker is the green line, and the top income earners of America is the red line. Tell me how that is good for America. I want any Republican to explain how 30 years of wage stagnation and 80% improvement in productivity by workers and the ridiculous growth in income for the top 1% has made this country better. No Republican, I don't think, can do this. None of them ever talk about this. None of them ever bring it up and say, and this is where we want America to go. No Republicans have the guts to look at the American people in the eye and explain this chart is really good for everybody. Instead, they fill the airwaves with lies like this.
We can't tax the very people that we expect to reinvest in our economy and to create jobs.
It is just foreign to most people to think that we're going to address our problems by raising taxes on the very people we expect to jump back into the game to create jobs.
We will never have real economic growth if we're going to raise taxes on those in America who create jobs.
See, now, you've heard all of those sound bites from the Republicans in Washington. So the reason why I'm making this offer tonight to a state representative or a state senator from any of the 50 great states of America is because I want something different. I want the Republicans to come up and give me something different. They want the White House, the Senate. They want the whole enchilada. They want everything. But they always come up with the same BS. So maybe if we got a state senator from the great state of Kentucky to come up here and to the state of New York to explain to all of us. Or maybe we can find somebody from West Virginia, a righty that might be able to explain how this is good for America. They can't do it. We have to go, I guess, into the heartland, and maybe we can find somebody. I'm serious about this. I personally will write the check for you or for a plane ticket, for hotel, and I'll even go to dinner with you, and I know you'll really be excited about that if you're a righty. But, folks, I'm not making this stuff up. This is where wage earners have been in this country for the last 30 years. This is what American workers have done in productivity in the last 30 years, an increase of 80%. And this is the red line. You ever wonder, is your kid going to be a red liner or a blue liner? If you're a working American and you believe in recycled Bush economic theory, no offense, but I think you need your head examined. The one percenters in the red line have hammered the Americans in the blue lines for 30 years. Republicans, I don't think they give a damn if you work 50, 60, or 70 hours a week to survive and pay the bills. Where have your bills gone in the last 30 years? We are living still, unfortunately, in the greediest generation in the history of this country. And these numbers right here prove it. The top 1% were, no, think about this. If the top 1%, if they were the job creators, based on what this is right here, hell, we ought to have record employment, not record unemployment. You see, they've been lying to us for years about how the job creators are going to reinvest their tax dollars back into the economy. For Republicans, this red line, just remember one thing about the Republicans. This red line will never be high enough for them. In this blue line right here, the wage earners, they take their finger and they just put it right on top of them and they squish them. And that line right there, that'll never be low enough. That's their whole philosophy. All the money goes to the top. Break up the unions, crap on the working folk of America, go after firefighters, go after teachers, go after nurses, go after your right to collectively bargain in the workplace. Just butcher the entire economy, because as long as they've got this red line, and as long as that baby's going this way, they can have all the political influence in the world. That's what's wrong with this country, and that's why Washington is broken, because they cannot reverse this. At the same time, Democrats, I think, need to wake up and remember just who they're fighting for. There should be no negotiation with conservatives. This is undoubtedly an ideological war. What do you believe in? What do you believe in? Do you want to turn to your son and daughter as they go off to college someday and say, hey, look what you have to look forward to. You're a blue liner, and this is what you have to look forward to if you end up in the top 1%. This is where America is. This is income stagnation right here. And the tax policies we have in this country have led us this way for years. But you know what? They want more out of the workers. We have the most educated, trained force in America, don't we? And so we want to keep them down. Now, how do we fight? I love this piece of tape. I can't get enough of this guy. It's unfortunate that he left us way too early, because I think he would fight like this.
What is the price? We ask the other side. What is the price that you want from these working men and women? What cost? How much more do we have to give to the private sector and the business? How many $1 billion more are you asking? Are you requiring? When does the greed stop?
Ted Kennedy, 2007 on the Senate floor. Does it play tonight? Does it play in 2011? Does it play in 2012 and 13 and 14? You better believe it does, because he had a philosophy, and the Democrats used to have a philosophy that a rising tide lifts all boats. But now we're playing with all these graphs and all these lines, and if the charts don't go this way for the redliners, we're not a very good country anymore. And the Republicans aren't doing anything to turn the job market around. They are obstinate, they are obstructionists, and all they care about is defeating President Obama. When is the worm going to turn for the Democrats? President Obama and the Democrats need to show that kind of fire that you just saw from the 2007 tape of Senator Ted Kennedy. They need to call Republicans out daily on their greed. Because you know what? That graph isn't going to change. Those are facts. That's not theory. Those are numbers. If you were in business and your bean counter came into the office and said, boss, take a look at this. Look where we're going. Would you say, oh, you're making that up? No, that's real stuff. The American worker can't survive another 30 years or even another 30 seconds of Republican economic policy. Paul Ryan, you're the guru now. Why don't you come to New York and go face-to-face with me on this issue and give the blue liners an idea of what voucher care is going to be instead of Medicare? Chris Christie, here's another cultural Republican, taking a chopper ride. Can you fly that sucker across the Hudson River and come on in here to the studio and talk to me? Because nobody else will ask you about this graph. Taking $5 grand out of the pockets of every employee and lining the pockets of the redliners in your state. You're right in lockstep with what the boys want you to do in Washington. And any one of the Republican 2012 candidates has an open invitation to stand here and talk about shared sacrifice and what it really means. None of them can do it. And we as liberals and we as independent voters, if you're in that arena, you have to realize that this is who they are. They're never going to change. Republicans are trying to scare us right now about the debt ceiling and unfunded mandates. And they basically are banking on the fact that you're stupid and not paying attention to what the hell's going on. Americans do care about having a job, filling their tank up, and giving their kids a better life than they had. If these lines keep heading in this direction, how in the world is the American dream going to be revitalized? We have in this country right now income disparity that we have never seen before, and that graph is all about income disparity. And I need one of these Republicans from any of the 50 states. If you're a state legislator, just contact our producers here at NBC for the Ed Show. We'll bring you in here. I need you to explain this graph to me. I'm selfish. I want to know. I'm sure the audience wants to know, too, but I want to know. Because, you see, that graph has done nothing when it comes to disposable income. Nowhere on that blue line down at the bottom does it say that there's been an increase in disposable income for American families, and that's why our economy is thriving. No, it's not thriving. It's a little bit better than it was before President Obama took over. No question about that. We're headed in the right direction. But if you don't have disposable income, how's the economy going to turn around? And if we have these Wall Street barons and these in the financial sector sitting on $2 trillion worth of assets, and they're hanging on because they want to see President Obama lose the election because they're all about power, how are we going to turn this around? So get your cell phones out, because I have a very profound question for you tonight. If you're a parent, do you think your child will be a red liner or a blue liner? Text A for red, text B for blue. 622-639 is the number, and you can always go to our blog at ed.msnbc.com. We'll bring you the results later on in the show. Joining me now is Independent Senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders. Senator, great to have you with us tonight. Why aren't Democrats screaming about the income disparity? And here we are, hung up in hedgerow country, talking about a debt ceiling that doesn't mean a damn thing when it comes to jobs. Your thoughts, Senator?
Well, you're right. Some of us are screaming, and some of us have made the point that the United States now, Ed, has the most unequal distribution of wealth and income of any major country on earth. We're looking at the top 1% earning 22% of all income in America, more than the bottom 50%. And here's another fact, Ed, that you should put up there on your charts. And that is the top 400 wealthiest people in this country, own more wealth than the bottom half of America, about 150 million people. During a recent 25-year period, 80% of all income made in this country went to the top 1%.
Have the Republicans done anything to turn this around, in your opinion?
Oh, quite the contrary. What they have done is fought for huge tax breaks for the very wealthiest people in this country. What they have fought for, along, I have to say, with some Democrats, is a trade policy which allows large corporations to throw American workers out on the street, move to China, bring your products back into this country, which results in the decimation of our manufacturing sector. What the Republicans very clearly are doing is representing the very wealthiest people in this country, and they could care less about anybody else. Unfortunately, because of the nature of our campaign finance system, there are too many Democrats also hooked up to big money and are not standing up for working families or the middle class.
Now, when you look at the debt ceiling conversation that's going on, they want more cuts if they're going to agree to anything. And the cuts that they are attacking right now are on the blue liners. I mean, all of these wage earners in America who are being asked to do more by these Republican governors and give up more, they're all blue liners. Yet all the breaks are still going to the red liners.
The problem we have is the Republican proposal is so outrageous that literally people don't believe you when you tell them. They don't believe you when you tell them that the Republicans want to end Medicare as we now know it, shift the cost back onto senior citizens, give them an $8,000 check and say, go get a private insurance company to take care of your needs. Good idea. You may be lucky to stay in the hospital for 2 or 3 days. Slash Medicaid, slash education, slash nutrition, slash the Environmental Protection Agency, et cetera, et cetera. And by the way, as part of that proposal, despite the fact that the rich are getting richer while the middle class is going to collapse, you know what we're going to do, Ed? We're going to give another $1 trillion in tax breaks to the very wealthiest people in this country.
That's exactly what they want to do. They want to cut the corporate and they want to cut the personal income tax rate another 10%. And I said that in the commentary. The red line, it ain't high enough, and the blue line can never be low enough. And
there is no end to their greed, and if we don't begin to stand up and stop it in a very forceful way, there is not going to be a middle class left in this country.
Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders.